This is The Weekly Set, the official podcast of TVEnthusiast.com. With your host, Tyson Gifford and William Rowick. Episode 141, recorded January 19, 2018. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Weekly Set, the official podcast of TVEnthusiast.com. I am your host, Tyson, and joining me today, as always, is my partner in crime, William Rowick.
Hello.
So, today we are going to continue our discussion of Peaky Blinders, The Magicians, and Black Mirror. We're going to start things off with Peaky Blinders Season 4, Episode 2, in which we learn that Michael, in fact, did survive the gunfire.
Yes, as I predicted last week.
Yeah, it seemed unlikely that they were going to kill off two of them, right away like that.
Right.
And we knew, it was, if John survived, I think we were both ready to walk.
He took way too many bullets in that scene for him to survive, yeah.
If he survived, it's might as well have just had him, jump a shark on some jets.
That would have been some Arrow C3 shit where he gets stabbed through the abdomen and then, pushed off a fucking mountain and lives.
So yeah, John, down for the count, out. He's dead. His wife is not taking it well, blaming Tommy. Tommy's yeah, whatever. Shut up. We're all mourning his death and you're in danger still. The whole family's kind of just still a lot of resentment towards Tommy, just still in the air. Polly, it's barely holding it back. Even his fellow, what is it? Not gypsy. What are you going to say? His friends that live on his property are even a little down on him because he's decided to go into business with Littlefinger.
Yeah, I was surprised to see Littlefinger in this. It's such and I hate to bag on actors who seem to play the same character and everything, but he seems like the same character in this.
He can't smile without you thinking he has some ulterior motive.
Exactly. Every time
the actor's cursed with an evil smile.
Well, also the character he's playing is he's one of these Tommy mentions the character. He has some strange name that I can't even remember.
Yeah, it's something Gold. His last name's Gold, I think.
His last name's Gold. We'll just call him Mr. Gold.
Yeah. But now we're talking about Once Upon a Time.
Now, exactly. But yeah, but his character he is supposed to be untrustworthy. The others describe him as an animal. And they kind of reprimand Tommy for even thinking about going into business with him because he is duplicitous, he is backstabbing. That's the impression that you get. And then you see Littlefinger and you're like, of course, yeah, Littlefinger is a backstabber. No wonder everybody was so anxious. It's Littlefinger.
Polly advises Tommy that he needs to find out what Littlefinger, let's just keep calling him Littlefinger instead of Mr. Gold. I kind of like calling him Littlefinger, even though
it's not, but it is.
But Polly advises Tommy to find out what Littlefinger wants,
right.
more than just money. And what he ends up finding out, apparently, it seems like too easy of an answer to me. I'm not buying it. I don't know about you, but
yeah, he says he wants him to train his son to box,
or give him opportunities to box.
Give him opportunity, or just make him a famous boxer, right?
Yeah, I think Tommy has more connections in more of the legit world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Tommy
that's kind of what he apparently says he wants from him, but it's kind of hard to buy that.
There's this really tense scene where he walks into the yard and he says, I want this. I want to buy this. How much?
He says it's I'm going to make it part of our deal.
Yeah, he says, I'm going to make it part of our deal. And then this is Tommy. This is how clever Tommy is. Because Tommy is well, at first he's it's not for sale. And then when he says, I'm going to make it part of our deal, Tommy is okay, then I'll flip this coin. Heads, you get the yard. Tails.
And Littlefinger's smiling.
Yeah, and Littlefinger's smiling. Of course, he doesn't see the swerve coming. He thinks, at this point, he thinks Tommy is just giving in to his demand. He doesn't see the swerve coming, and Tommy blindsides him with the swerve because he's like, "And Tails, I get to sleep with your daughter." And then you could see the smile
fade off his
face. And then he starts to laugh. He chuckles a bit, and then Tommy's like, "No, this is not a joke. This is sacred to us."
And that would work on Littlefinger because being like from another like gypsy tribe, they're like very superstitious.
Oh yeah, they're like very superstitious. Yeah, being from another gypsy tribe. So Tommy is like very clear. He's like, "No, this is sacred to us. This is." If you flip the coin, that is the wager. And I have witnesses here who will certify the wager and certify it as legit. And so if you flip that coin, it's 100% set in stone. So there's no fucking around here. And you can see him.
There could be. That's the threat.
And that's the threat. Yeah, and you see Littlefinger. He's like he's flipping the coin in his fingers. You know, he's hesitating now, and Tommy's like, "Well, just flip the coin." And finally, after like this tense, moment where you're trying to figure out what the fuck he's gonna do, finally he says, there won't be a wager today. And he walks away from it.
Because I think I'll use this to buy this coin to buy a flower to place on your grave whenever that time comes. A somewhat veiled threat, but more of a like a kind of more of like a, who knows, you might die. And when that happens, I'll place this, on your grave in the form of a flower.
Yeah, like a veiled threat. Yeah.
Meanwhile, we get the union workers going to, the woman going to try to call a strike on Tommy. Tommy has already done what he had set up as a threat in the last episode. He's cut all the men's their wages by 5 shillings a month.
Yes.
Or not a month.
You see that when
whatever it is.
You see that when he has this famous boxer, formerly famous boxer, working in his factory. You see this when he's trying to set up a fight for Littlefinger's son. He approaches this boxer he has working for him in his factory, and the first thing he says is, he complains about the pay. Yeah.
But what's interesting about this is that Tommy's like encouraging her to blow the whistle. He's cutting the pay even though she didn't take the bait when he brought that up as a solution last week.
Right.
He just did it on his own. And so there's this idea that he's either tempting fate or that he has some other plan. And I think the idea at hand is that he's calling a strike, but it's so that he can use all of these people as his soldiers.
I think so.
On the books, he cut their pay, and in reality, he's paying them under the table to act as soldiers, and he needs them striking, not working in the factories, so that they're available to work as his soldiers. That's right. What I read from it.
And 100%, I think that's what's going on. That's a total Tommy Shelby move. Right?
Yeah. Tommy's like a player. He plays the game. This is him putting his pieces in play. But we see the opposite side of the board and somebody else putting his pieces to play when we see that, Adrian Brody pays him a visit, in the guise of a business relation from Paris.
Yeah, like Tommy's like the guy he has running the factory for him, he tells Tommy that there's an investor from Paris who wants to meet with Tommy. He asks Tommy if he should just send him away given the circumstances, and Tommy says no, let him in, or something to that effect. And he comes in, and it's Adrian Brody, the head of the mafia.
Changretta is his name.
Changretta.
But we'll just call him.
Maybe not the head of the mafia, but definitely the main representative of the group that were sent.
Definitely the head of this mission.
Yeah, definitely the head of the mission. Definitely the head of the group that were sent to kill the Shelbys. And he makes no bones about it. His intentions to kill every single one of them and to leave Tommy for last. He also remarks how it was extremely easy to get alone in a room with Tommy. Remark meant to unnerve him.
Mm-hmm.
Tommy for his part, he doesn't break. He doesn't lose his cool. He doesn't show any amount of fear or uneasiness. Even when
I think he kind of did in his eye. You could see it in his eyes a little bit.
Maybe a little bit in his eyes, yeah. But he tries to maintain his composure.
And I talk about the good acting.
Yeah,
the actors.
You can see that
subtle emotion to his eyes.
Tommy attempts to maintain his composure, even as Changretti is trying to throw him off balance by remarking about how easy it was for him to get in there, how he had already disarmed Tommy by sending somebody into his office ahead of time to remove the bullets from his gun.
Putting down the bullets and naming the people in his family,
Yeah.
knocking over the one after saying John's name.
Just basically Changretti's message is like, I don't care how many people you have working for you. I don't care how many people you have on your side. I can get to you. I just did get to you very easily. You can't stop me. You can't stop this. And that was basically his message.
That and that even though he's going to kill him and his family,
he's going to do it honorably.
He has his own sense of honor, yes.
Yeah,
and that sending the Black Hand is both like a threat to make him feel unnerved as he awaits his death, but also the honorable thing to send it and allow him to prepare honorably.
Right.
For battle, I believe, as they refer to it as like going to war, Yeah,
they refer to it as going to war, yeah.
And he and Tommy come quickly to the agreement, no deaths of children or civilians and no involvement of police.
Right.
So, game on, I guess.
Yeah, game on, I guess. Yeah.
So we'll have to see.
We'll have to see what happens.
How this plays out.
Yeah.
I think there's more seasons of Peaky Blinders ordered, so I can't imagine they're just going to kill them all off, and then the rest of the seasons are just going to be 6 episodes a season of their gravestones. It's all season 5, Peaky Blinders. It's just a camera on their graves.
Yeah. Somehow I don't think it's gonna.
Comes a tall, handsome man. Great.
Oh my god.
And a red right hand. The graves. Yeah, don't think that's gonna be it. So, but I could see them going as far as like killing everybody but Tommy.
Yeah.
And having following Tommy, as he ventures in a different direction. Or I could even see it killing Tommy and showing it picking up from some of the other blinders, maybe even further down the line, like his youngest sibling.
That would
who's
be
still a young teenager, I think.
That would be an interesting direction to go in. That would definitely be a curveball.
So I could see them doing that. That's the thing about British shows is that because they go with this they kind of treat each season like a series almost, like it's kind of complete.
Right.
And because of that, and because of the limited episodes and them not having to worry as much about these long contracts with actors and stuff, they're much more loose about how they do things like that. They'll just wipe out an entire cast. I used to watch a British show called Being Human, and it was adapted in the US.
Oh, I remember that show.
But the British one,
I saw the British one.
Literally,
I never
when
watched
the show ended on I think it's 4th season or something. It's 4th or 5th season.
Mm-hmm.
And there was literally not a single member of the original cast.
Oh, really?
In the lineup when the show ended.
Also reminds me of Sliders. Yes. By the end of Sliders, I think there was only 1 or 2 people from the original cast.
Yeah, there wasn't much.
Still in there, yeah.
But that was after years. I think Sliders was 7 years or something?
Yeah, Sliders was on for 7 years, and it just got progressively more and more unwatchable. But
as they made compromises, the showrunners and actors left.
Yeah, and actors left, yeah.
But yeah, that kind of stuff happens. But in the UK, they kind of treat each one like it's this it's kind of what we're starting to see now in America more recently with Netflix and with these kind of shorter run shows that we're starting to get has kind of been the way it's always been in the UK with a 6-episode season being normal, now that's starting to feel like that's closer to normal now in the US. But before that was are you kidding? A TV show is 22 episodes, always. And just that structure of it, like, it gives him a lot of leeway to, like, kind of take bigger risks like that. Sometimes not even necessarily out of choice. Like, sometimes it's been the case that because it's so few episodes, there's like a low money investment and they'll get good actors, but then those actors might have some other projects so they can't be in the show anymore. And when that happens, you know, they don't have these long, like 4-year contracts like they sign in America with actors on these shows.
Right.
And because of that, if they don't have access to the actor, they're like, well, we just got a contract to do another season. So I guess what you're just going to say he died.
Pretty much.
So that leaves a lot of leeway in the way they can present that, you know?
Right.
It'd be kind of interesting to see how they handle that. But I kind of have a suspicion that Tommy's going to see his way through this.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, that's mostly it. There's a few other details and stuff, but nothing that's really
nothing major,
too noteworthy to talk about. I mean, we had, you know, some police officers talking about Ada and her past involvement with the Communist Party. That's kind of more like just a hint of some conflict that could be coming up more than anything else. Yeah, you know, a few other small things like that. Oh, they killed they killed 2 Italians.
Yep, they killed 2 Italians.
By setting up a trap at John's funeral.
Right.
Which, you know, Polly was greatly offended by, but all the boys seem to be in on. That's kind of how we got introduced to Littlefinger being on the show. But yeah, and that's pretty much it. Kind of not as much happening as the last episode. Last episode was like, you know, the setup for the whole season story though. And so this one was more just like, kind of setting up the conflict. Like last season's kind of setting up the story. This season's kind of like putting the players in the right place. And now it's like going into the actual story, moving on from this point.
Right. Sure.
At least that's how I see it. So, probably more exciting episodes to come.
Right.
So next up, The Magicians, season 3, episode 2, titled Heroes and Morons.
Oh, yeah. They're looking for the, Mayakovsky and his batteries, and Mayakovsky got turned into
at the same time.
Yeah. Eliot's looking for the key. Well, basically, they're looking for the battery.
One of the keys.
Yeah, Eliot's looking for one of the keys. Basically, they're looking for the battery because for Quentin to find his key, he's got to go to Fillory, obviously, because the keys are in Fillory. Quentin has the book that's telling him the story of the keys, right? So, so Quentin's getting the story of the keys from the book, and he knows he's got to get to Fillory. He has the clock that can transport him to Fillory, but since there's no magic, it's not going to work. So that's the main reason he wants to find Mayakovsky's batteries, because he knows that's the only magic that exists, presumably, that could be used to power that clock and get him to Fillory.
The majority of the episode, like you said, is kind of like the search for Mayakovsky.
Yes.
Which kind of their first big lead happens at a bar.
Yeah. A bear trashing a bar. They find out that the bear actually was Mayakovsky. And so it's
funny how they decided that, because like the bear is being kind of a dick.
Oh yeah, the bear's being kind of a dick, so obviously it's Mayakovsky. Yeah. Yeah, they decide. So they go to the bar, they like interview people, you know, try to figure out what happened. They find out that Mayakovsky did come into the bar. He came in with a woman. And then he turned into
too young for him, apparently.
Yeah, it was
immediately makes us go, oh yeah, remember last season they talked about how he had the affair with that one student that was friends with Alice's brother. And there was a whole tie into the story last season about how that led to the death of Alice's brother.
Right.
And that he was kind of at fault for that. And that's why he's been at Breakville South this whole time.
Right.
It's like his exile.
Exactly.
But here they find out that he was turned into a bear. He went into this bar with this woman. Quentin talks to her and finds out that it wasn't her. She didn't have any involvement in this and turning him into a bear. But she had mentioned going to the bar with him and just kind of talking about her turbulent love story with him at the time. And it was another woman that had done this to him that Mayakovsky needed to meet up with. And that's how that occurred. And now they're like tracking a series of kind of weird magical transformations and calamities that have been happening around the city.
Yeah, like a magical,
including a dinosaur at a birthday party.
yeah, dinosaur birthday party and a magical orgy in the middle of the park.
Love the police officer in that scene going, "You guys stop what you're doing there."
Yes, you guys stop what you're doing there.
All of that leads to kind of another little surprise in this kind of Mayakovsky sex scandal of Breakbills that we learn that he had a partner that was a teacher at Fillory as well, a familiar face, who was kind of pissed off about Mayakovsky kind of betraying her and depressed about kind of the absence of magic and the little bit she has left. And so she's off the deep end. Her meeting with Mayakovsky basically set her off. And that was kind of like the first act. And then after that, it was just basically her spiraling. Quentin kind of like is talking her off of a ledge. While this is happening, while this whole search is happening, they run into Alice, who's kind of tagging along with them just because she's also looking for Mayakovsky. She's got a cat because that's what's supposed to protect her from, or at least be an early warning system for this monster that's hunting her.
Right.
And so they're in the police station after all the shenanigans with the teacher and everything's going on, and the cat just fucking explodes.
Yeah, like that's freaking hilarious.
Yeah, and Alice is like, "Oh God," and she kind of takes off, and you're just kind of like, "Okay, so this creature is kind of on her tail," and that's kind of Quentin's and the kind of Earth side of the story right now. Right. Over in Fillory, Eliot finds out he has a ship made of like sentient wood, and he's going to use that ship to, under the guise of going to a village to collect taxes for the fairy queen, he's actually going to find the key, one of the keys that they need. And so he gets to this remote village, and the remote village is being constantly attacked by this like wraith-like demon.
Yeah. Well, we find out Eliot's daughter is back.
Yeah, and fully grown, which is like, it's funny because they're making fun of it being such a trope.
Yeah, it's freaking hilarious. They're making such a trope. They mentioned like what happened on Angel. The same thing happened on Angel. Yeah. And they also mentioned like Buffy, but then like she corrects them and says, no, that's different.
So it's a common trope. It's happening on Supernatural this season.
Yeah.
Like Lucifer's son, who's like already growing up.
Yeah, I love it how they just like their reaction to that is like, oh, this is such a trope.
But regardless, they got her, Eliot's wife is along for the ride, but she's just like bonkers. She's completely like out of her skull. She's enjoying herself way too much, excited about spending time with her family. To her, it's like a family vacation.
Yeah, to her.
So you have a fully grown baby daughter who's reporting against you to the fairy queen. You have a gay husband who's like, didn't want any of this in the first place, and it's just kind of like going along with it. And here you have her, and she's just like giddy and happy for the family vacation. So they're kind of going, they go to this remote village. They find out about that this village is constantly being attacked by this wraith-like figure. And the person who's saving them is like the village elder. And he's like he's away praying for them for their safety. He comes out, he meets Eliot. Eliot demands the key, and he says that the key is the only thing that's keeping everybody safe in the village, and that if he takes it, they'll die. Eliot ends up figuring out that that's bullshit, that the actual, like, there's a death that occurred in the village blamed on the wraith that somebody is able to figure out came from a sword, from a rapier or a saber, not from like a claw of an animal. And they use that to basically figure out that this village elder is using like illusion magic.
Right.
And in doing so, they kind of, get him in hot water, expose him, get him in hot water with the village, and acquire the key.
Yeah, acquire the key, because the key was illusion magic, and he's been using it to fool everybody
into thinking he's like an important figure that they need to survive.
Right.
I'm trying to think, is there anything else kind of notable in this episode? We got Penny's side of the story.
Penny just had like a small role where, Penny's girlfriend actually figures out where the battery is. Well, there was two batteries, right? The one got destroyed when Quentin's former teacher, attempted suicide, and then they found out that the other battery was still intact, and Penny's girlfriend beats them to it. And basically we get a scene with her and Penny, where Penny's basically dying, right?
Yeah.
He looks like he's on his last legs.
He's been staying at the library's like, an outpost that's in like a weird realm where time has stopped. And that's basically the only thing that keeps him alive, because since time stopped, the disease has stopped with time. It doesn't progress. And so that's basically what's been keeping him alive.
Right.
But in the scene, that means that he's only like safe when he stays there. And because he's indebted to the library, he has to go out and do work for them, collecting books and doing other things. And every moment he's out, his disease is advancing.
Right, exactly.
So he's on death's door. And that's pretty much it for the episode, isn't it?
That's pretty much it, yeah.
Okay. So yeah, we'll be talking about Magicians more week to week through the podcast. It's going to be running longer than the other two shows we're talking about. The other two shows each had 6 episodes.
Oh yeah, definitely.
This season, The Magicians has, I think, like 13. So, we'll be talking about it for twice as long. So we'll keep talking about that later. Now on to Black Mirror. This is season 4, episode 2, titled Arkangel. And this is an episode that was directed by Jodie Foster.
Yes.
Probably of every episode in this season, this is the one that's like most believable to me. Just the fact that like this is how crazy like new parents are. That, like,
yeah.
It's like you a lot of the Black Mirror episodes you have to go like, okay, well, that's gonna take a long time of being used to the technology to jump to the conclusion that these behaviors are okay in society. And it's like sometimes it's hard to like accept that leap of like a character just kind of thinking some kind of really weird behavior is an acceptable thing to do.
Right.
More on that next week.
More on that next week, exactly.
But in this episode, you know how crazy parents are, like new parents are. So like everything that happens here makes sense. Basically, a mother almost loses her daughter, goes fucking nuts because of it, and enrolls her daughter in this like trial program for this thing where they like embed a chip inside the girl and have like a series of things that, I mean, for the main thing is tracking. That's kind of what gets her in the door.
Right.
Basically exactly. That, if she can track her daughter, then, she won't have another scare like she had before where her daughter just disappeared when they were in the park.
Right.
And she like was scared out of her mind. So that's kind of like the thing that gets her in the door. They start talking about all this kind of way crazier stuff, like with her saying, oh, that's all just optional. And like, okay, yeah, well, optional, that means that of course some other's going to become completely reliant on it. And that's stuff like direct surveillance, like seeing video through the eyes of the child. And that's also being able to censor things, which was, we've had a few things in this season that directly connect to the Christmas special Black Mirror in season 2. And this is another one of those, which is in the Christmas special, it was the idea of blocking. Like you could block somebody in reality and they'd become just censored out and you couldn't hear or see them.
Sure.
And in this, it's like the idea of violent. Well, in this, it's like the idea of violent imagery.
Well, yeah, they block it.
Censoring violent imagery
Censoring
out so that
violent imagery, so.
Which they played with in a few different ways. That was kind of interesting.
Yeah, she blocked out like a dog that might have seemed threatening to her young daughter. Basically, it's a classic story of this overprotective, overbearing parent. The technology definitely goes too far, I think. I really think like I don't buy that the blocking technology and that the seeing through your daughter's eyes part would actually be any part of a system like this, because it's just so unnecessary in the first place. Like it definitely exists. I think in this episode, to serve the plot. It seemed to me.
Yeah.
Like
the GPS thing was
it's
just
a little
like
absurd.
It was like the gateway drug to all the other stuff.
Right.
And the real point, I think, was the idea of like an invasion of privacy. And the idea that like
I get
a mother could feel entitled. A mother could feel entitled to be so invasive into her child's privacy.
And I think one of the things that goes, I think the mother goes like too far in her. She becomes she becomes way too overbearing and overprotective. And one of the main problems because as the episode goes on, I'm just going to summarize this in broad strokes because there's no need to belabor the details. But as the episode goes on, once this is in place, right, the girl grows up, she gets older and she starts to wonder about the world around her and her experiences. So she wonders, well, what does blood look like? Every time I see blood and it's just blurry. So I want to see what that looks like, right? And so she starts stabbing herself with a pencil, trying to get a glimpse of that. And it just keeps coming out.
It blocks it out. Yeah.
It blocks it out. Yeah. And she gets frustrated.
There's also a moment where
and then her mother
can't help her grandfather.
Her mother comes up and like shakes her, what are you doing? And she like smacks her mother in the face. That's important to know.
Yeah.
Because that's the first incident.
There's also she has a moment where her grandfather is having a heart attack and she's unable to help him because she can't hear or see him.
She can't hear or see him. Not that I don't really think at that age she would have really known anyway, even if she could see it.
Oh, kids are taught pretty early if something's bad to call 911, you know? But like not being able to even recognize there's a problem, and then he's like dying on the floor, and just by chance the mother's able to realize something's wrong when she goes and looks through her kid's eyes.
Right, exactly.
But this combined with the stabbing and some other incidents like that lead the mother to finally decide, you know what, I'm gonna put this away. I'm gonna let her off the leash, so to speak, and grow up and kind of.
She doesn't.
Well, she does it first.
She does it first.
She doesn't throw it out.
She doesn't throw it out. Yeah, they mentioned that she can't remove the implant.
Yeah,
there's no way. And they also mentioned that it's been banned in Europe and was about to be banned in the U.S.
Yeah, which would make sense. Europe's bigger on the privacy concerns and stuff, so that would be the first place to ban that. But she decides to stop using it and she puts it away. Instead of destroying the tablet, she just puts it away, which shows that, okay, well, obviously something at some point is going to tempt her back into using
otherwise the episode would end right there, right?
And that cuts us forward. We see the moments where now the daughter's able to kind of understand things better. So she is a teenager now.
She's a teenager and she's going through all things teenagers go through. She has a boyfriend, which is the same kid that she made friends with in elementary school. Now they're older.
Showed her, explained pornography to her.
Explained pornography to her. And basically, she starts doing things with her boyfriend that gets her mother concerned. She runs off with him for an evening, and her mother
does the typical excuse of like
she does a typical excuse like she's at a friend's house, right?
Yeah.
So her mother calls her friend's mom to check up on her, see how she's doing, and finds out she's not there. And she calls around, and nobody seems to know where she is. This triggers that impulse in the mother, that. This harkens back to when she lost her on the playground as a young child, she instantly gets freaked out and she goes back to the tablet.
And goes to just like the worst possible time to be invasive into a daughter's life.
Right. She's having sex with her boyfriend. And here's another breakdown of the episode. This is where the episode also breaks down a little bit in that instead of confronting her daughter, because I guess she doesn't want her daughter to know that she's gone back to the tablet, right? Mm-hmm. So instead of confronting her or asking her what she was doing or making it known that she knows that she was lying, and having a talk with her like a decent parent would do, she decides she's just gonna be fucking horrible and not say anything.
And blackmail the boyfriend.
This boyfriend cuts off all contact with his girlfriend per her mother's wishes, and this sends her into a depression. And then at some point through the tablet, the mother finds out that her daughter is pregnant from the sexual encounter. And so she slips her, without her knowing, she slips her an abortion pill.
Yeah, this is about the worst thing she does.
This is about the worst freaking thing you can freaking do. This is beyond, like, at this point, it's fucking retarded, right?
Yeah,
you're a lady. I'm sorry.
As retarded as it is, like I said, I could still see this happening. I could legit see this happening more than probably any other story in Black Mirror this season. I could legit see this happening.
I could see it happening with somebody. I could see it happening with somebody as mentally unstable as this woman. Yes. I really think this episode is about a mentally unstable woman and technology aiding and abetting her unstable mental condition.
Yeah, enabling it. Yeah. So after seeing her daughter have sex, and not just that, but drugs, blackmailing the boyfriend, causing her to have this abortion by recognizing her pregnancy and slipping her this morning after pill in her, which is another part of her just being a crazy mom, that she's been making her these like nutrition shakes every day since she was like a little girl, and using that to hide the abortion medication she slipped her daughter. That comes out to the daughter when she's in school, and she just gets like really sick.
She gets sick, and then the nurse alerts her that, that's because of the abortion pill you took. She's like, what? And she doesn't know what the hell the nurse is talking about.
She didn't even know she was pregnant. It was that device implanted in her. It wasn't that the mom saw the daughter take a pregnancy test and saw the result. The device itself was able to recognize that and told her, and she kept that from her daughter and slipped her the abortion pill so that her daughter would have the miscarriage, apparently, without even knowing she was pregnant, hopefully to her mother's intents, wouldn't even know she ever was.
So she goes home, she finds the box for the pill, finds out that her mother drugged her. She goes up to find the tablet. Her mother confronts her, and she beats her pretty savagely with the tablet. And then the daughter runs away.
Well, while she's beating, I think part of it here is that while she's beating her mom, she accidentally enables the censorship again to violent imagery, which blocks out how violently she's attacking her mom. And so I think the idea in that aspect is that what could have been just a fight turns into something much worse because she doesn't even realize how much damage she's causing.
Right, exactly.
And so she does like big damage to her mom. Like, it looked at first like she'd killed her.
It did.
I thought that's where they had gone.
That's not what happens though. It ends with her running away and her mom's running out there calling out to her. This is a better ending than if she had just killed her mom, really, because this is a better ending because it ends with the mother's worst fear being realized.
Yeah.
Right? She had lost her daughter. That was her biggest fear the entire episode from the very first scene, was that she would lose her daughter some way.
The tablet's now destroyed across her face.
The tablet's now destroyed. So we find out that
it's like banned. It's illegal and everywhere.
So we find out the greatest irony is that the tablet technology that she used to protect her daughter and make sure that she didn't lose her daughter, that she always had her daughter, was the agent that caused her to lose her daughter.
Well, it's like that old adage about, holding on to something and losing it forever,
Right.
And that's kind of what happened in this episode. So I'm taking it you didn't like this episode too much.
No, it wasn't that I didn't like it. It just...
Too many leaps in logic for you, or?
No, it was just, It was it was okay, I thought. I just didn't really have any strong feelings towards it.
I like this more than the last episode. Both episodes borrowed a lot from the Christmas special.
I like Callister more because it really, I really felt like, I liked the characters more, and I felt it was like more interesting. Like,
I think that was kind of the problem with
I
me
think
with
conceptually it was more interesting with the idea of these virtual beings and are they really conscious, and if they are conscious, you know, I just thought that was like kind of interesting to me on a philosophical level, and I just thought also as it worked as a straight thriller. Where I know this one wasn't trying to be like a thriller or anything. This was trying to be like kind of a moral fable on, you know, the dangers of being an overbearing parent. I mean, I get what I was trying to say. I just didn't really care because I just felt like the mother was just a bad mother, and I can't sympathize with her character at all because you clearly see everything she was doing wrong, and I'm just like, but you know, if you just were a normal parent and sat down and talked to your daughter about everything, it wouldn't have ended up the way it did.
Yeah. I like this, I think, more than Callister, and I think a lot of the stuff you talk about conceptually that you like so much about Callister, a lot of that was already covered in the Christmas special, like almost identically or better.
I didn't watch the Christmas special.
Yeah.
You need to get what happened in the Christmas special.
You need to get around to the Christmas special. It's one of the best episodes of Black Mirror. But not only that, but also because I don't know. I just thought the tone was weird in Callister. Like the characters would get kind of jokey, like in an out of place kind of way.
Well, I
like,
mean,
there'd be like these kind of moments of levity that didn't really make sense.
I don't know,
tonally.
like, what are you referring to there? Because if you're talking about the stuff like inside the game, well, yeah, that's Robert Daly's own like bullshit universe where.
No. I'm talking about like between the characters. There'd be like moments of levity that did not make sense with the situation that they were in.
Okay. I think it was just like a lot of it was just because most of those characters have been there for seemingly forever. They're kind of used to their situation, and you could see.
I didn't read it that way at all.
You can kind of see the levity as like you know, they're just trying to mentally cope with their horrifying situation the best that they're trapped in the best they can.
I just read it as forced levity. I didn't read it that way at all. It felt too forced to me. It felt like they were trying to put in some quippy one-liners. Because a lot of that levity came from the main character who was new to that world.
That's true. You got a point there.
And like even when they ended up getting out into the actual virtual world of the game outside of Robert Daly's creation, and they got into the game itself, even there was like a bit too much like weird, oddly placed levity that just kind of felt really just tonally out of place and kind of took me out of it.
I think the levity worked to keep the episode from becoming too exhausting to watch for the viewer. Made more for viewers' sake, because
to me it felt like they were backdoor piloting
too hard. If they had gone too hard into making it depressing, it probably wouldn't have worked as well, in my opinion.
To me, it just felt like they were backdoor piloting the concept for something else. And in order to do that, they had to give the characters their own charms. And
I heard that, but I would not watch a series based on that because that would just be stupid. I'd be like, why would I watch fake Star Trek? The point of the episode wasn't to be a backdoor pilot for Star Trek. That'd be stupid.
But aspects of it felt that way to me. Like, I'll give you an example. Supernatural just had a backdoor pilot air. They're planning on doing this pilot show called Wayward Sister
with the sheriff. Yep.
Yeah, and the girl she's taken in and some other characters. And you watch the episode and it's okay, but there's like in a lot of like backdoor pilots, and this is the second backdoor pilot Supernatural's tried, by the way.
Yeah,
they did another one
the
with
first
this
one. That was a terrible episode, by the way.
Yeah, and this is better than that, but it still has some of those same things where it's like, okay, you're trying way too hard to like show this character, like, okay, we're going to introduce you to this character and show you what she's all about, and it's like, we've already met this character, and now you're like forcing us into this other perspective of her because that's what you'd need her to be in her own show that goes beyond what she was in just the few episodes she had been in before, and so there's these little moments where it just feels like really forced. Like, look at how cool I am. Look at how much like, and it's all there for the sake of getting like that thing. And this is what I'm getting from Callister. Right. Is there were moments where it's like, okay, we need to set up up like the interactions between this character and this character that were completely unnecessary to like a plot of a one-off, episode like that.
Well,
and just felt out of place and detracted from the tone. And it's like all the setup stuff in Avengers Age of Ultron, where it's like, why are you setting up Thor Ragnarok shit? We're in the middle of an Avengers movie. Get on topic.
well, anyway, I just
that's why I didn't like Callister, by the way. The USS Callister.
I didn't hate this episode. I didn't love it. I'm pretty neutral on this episode. Sorry, it's just the way I feel.
It's fine. This isn't particularly my favorite episode either. It's just, I think the thing is like I said with the Christmas special thing, is that a lot of what you liked so much about Callister, I think, was done better in the Christmas special.
Yeah.
And so since I have seen that, it lessens the impact of that stuff. It's like, okay, yeah, I've already seen this. Yeah, okay, I already know this stuff. Like I've already come to grips with the idea of like, are these real people, even though they're like digital clones, kind of like that kind of thing I've already done that in Black Mirror, and because of that, it lessens the impact of everything else. Whereas this one also has ties to other Black Mirror episodes, including the Christmas special as well. But like the main plot point is about like how a mother can be driven crazy by paranoia and how that can backfire on her.
How that can backfire. Exactly.
So like the main plot is original to the episode, whereas some of the other extraneous stuff was already covered in other episodes and stuff. Yeah, so I liked it more. I really didn't like the way the episode ended with the song choice and stuff. I thought that was like just destroyed the tone of the feeling of the ending.
Right, yeah.
Because you go from this ending that's like, oh yeah, she just realized her wrong fear, and then it jumps right into this weird like punkish song.
Right, exactly.
It's one of those like jarring moments, kind of like in Game of Thrones when Jaime got his hand cut off and then it jumped into a punk song.
Right.
And it was like, wait, what?
What?
And it just felt like weird and just kind of hurt the tone of the thing. I kind of felt that way with just the very ending. And that's literally just like, it didn't start playing that song and then cut to credits. Like it literally cut to credits and played that song at the same time. So if you just completely ignored the credits, I think I'd like the episode even more.
Right. Yeah.
But that was Black Mirror Season 4, Episode 2, Arkangel. We'll talk about Episode 3, Crocodile, which if you listen to this podcast, you know already Will's thoughts on that episode from our Best of 2017, which tells you it's his favorite episode of 2017.
Yeah, my favorite episode, of course. Loved it. Loved how pointless it was. That was excellent.
It also made my list for one of the scenes in it. So yeah, we'll be talking. We said back then, like we'll be talking in more detail in a few weeks. So that's going to be next week that we're talking about that. But that's the end of our shows for discussion. All we got left is what's coming up in the week ahead. So we're recording this a day late. We're recording it on Friday. So today, Friday, January 19th, it'll be Saturday by the time this podcast is available, but High Maintenance hit HBO and Grace and Frankie hit Netflix. Then this Sunday, January 21st, 2018, Counterpart hit Stars. So this looks good. This has, what's his name, who played, Jameson in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie. You know what I'm talking about? He played...
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, the actor. For some reason, his name just completely slipped my mind.
I can't remember.
But he was also in that drummer teacher student movie recently.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
But yeah, so it's a show. It's like a sci-fi show. It looks like it's a little similar to like one of the best seasons of Fringe, in that it's like about these kind of like different versions of reality, like different like realities or.
Okay, that sounds interesting.
And so they have like these different versions of him,
right?
And these different worlds, and he's kind of sent in to kind of troubleshoot like the problem of this or something.
Huh. All right.
I don't know too terribly much more than that, but it's on Stars. It looks really interesting. Then The Resident comes to Fox. That's just another medical procedural.
Yeah,
Then on Monday, January 22nd, 2018, The Alienist debuts on TNT. This is that one about
the serial killer in the early 20th century.
Yeah, early 20th century New York.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's The Alienist. And then Mosaic hits HBO. Now, what's interesting about Mosaic is that there's different ways you can watch this. You can I guess they filmed it so that you can watch from any character's perspective through every scene of the show. But on HBO, they have a specific cut. It's like the director's cut of all of that. So it's like you're paying attention to this character at this time. But I guess there's an interactive component on YouTube, I think, where you can watch it and pick who you're focusing on at any particular time. And this is from Steven Soderbergh. So yeah, interesting concept. If you watch on HBO, you're basically just watching the director's cut, so that concept's out the window. You're just kind of watching the story from the way that he decided to tell it.
Right.
But that hits HBO. Then on Tuesday, January 23rd, 2018, Bellevue hits WGN, Baskets returns to FXX, and The Detour returns to TBS. Then on Wednesday, January 24th, 2018, Let's Get Physical comes to Pop. This is it's like a comedy, and it's got the guy Beaver from Breaking Bad, the actor who played Beaver, and he's like an aerobics teacher or something.
Oh, okay.
It looks kind of ridiculous, but Schitt's Creek also comes to Pop, so both those two for Pop. And I believe this is actually the point at which the Paramount Network debuts with Waco as its first show.
Right.
Paramount Network used to be Spike. I think it's currently Spike TV.
With Melissa Benoist in there.
And it's got the guy from Friday Night Lights in it.
I know this because I watched Melissa Benoist on Kimmel promoting it.
So this is about the Branch Davidians. If you don't know about this, if maybe you're too young to know about this,
I remember hearing about that in the news when when did it happen?
Oh, I don't know. I was a kid.
Waco. That
so
was
if you happen to be watching and you're younger, listening and you're younger, you might not know much about the story. But basically, there was a big standoff between the FBI was it the FBI or was it
it was like 1993.
Yeah, it was.
So
it was between it was either the FBI or the DEA or some government agencies, and
I was like
a cult.
12 when this happened.
Yeah,
yeah.
So. It was a big cult in Texas, in Waco, Texas.
I remember,
led by a guy who named himself David Koresh, and saw himself as basically like the reincarnation of Jesus.
Yeah.
And there's like a deadly standoff between government forces and
I remember this was like all over the news back then.
Oh, it's a big deal. It had a big impact on the way they do like hostage negotiation and that kind of shit.
Right.
Like it had a huge impact on that. It was considered a big failure of law enforcement agencies in America when this happened.
Wow. Yeah.
Then on Friday, January 26, 2018, Jane the Virgin returns to the CW. So that's what's coming up in the week ahead. Until then, you can reach me on Twitter. I'm at Tyson Gifford. You can reach Will. He is at Voxel Hero. And check out our Facebook page and our YouTube channel, as well as our site, TVEnthusiast.com. And you can subscribe to this podcast through any major podcast client like iTunes or Pocket Cast. It's also on our YouTube channel with every single back episode. If you subscribe and you notice there's only like the last 2 episodes, that's just the amount we can store on our podcast server. On YouTube, we have every single episode we've ever done. It's all there. So you can check that out there. The entire backlog of this podcast, like I just said, is available on YouTube. So thank you everybody for listening.
Bye.
If you would like to voice your opinion, send an email to theweeklyset@TVEnthusiast.com. TV Enthusiast is a part of the Enthusiast Media Network. Stay tuned to TV Enthusiast and the Weekly Set podcast